on the Mark Tribe. I know you guys suffer from making some dumb decisions on the golf course, and perhaps your course management's waning. Well, have no fear. I have Leo Herrera on the line. Leo, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm doing amazing. Ready to help these guys get a little smarter on the golf course.
Yeah, it's so important. To that, let's do it real fast. You send me a list of course management tips, and the first one caught my attention, and it was like playing to your strengths. And I've watched videos of yours. I'm like, okay, this is a guy who's played for his country, Venezuela. You went played college golf. You were Rolex ranked. I mean, you've done it all basically. You turned professional, and then you hit me with playing to your strengths. What does that represent to you?
I mean, you got to know your game. So to me, I think that's one of the baseline things everybody should get a good understanding of. Where is it that you feel confident in your game? Where is it that you don't feel confident in your game? And when you're out there, I mean, golf is hard. Go play to your strengths, play to what you know you can do. If you don't like hitting the flop shot, don't hit the flop shot because it's the shot you got to hit. Roll up a little 6 iron if you want. That's kind of what I mean by that.
Yeah, well, look, I actually want to mine that a little further because most golfers, even some elite golfers, don't really realize that you can navigate your way around a shot that's daunting or scary or whatever the case might be. And just by some smart decision making, you can set yourself up to kind of get around that problem.
Absolutely. I mean, golf is all about stress management. So if you're able to be in control of the situation as much as possible throughout the round by positioning yourself throughout the course in areas that you know that you feel confident in excelling in, then, play to your strengths. It'll help your game.
Okay, I want to ask this. This is for the data junkies. And we have a lot of them that follow this podcast, right? On YouTube or on audio. And the data says that we're going to drive this thing as far down the fairway because of strokes gained metrics. You know the drill. Uh,
Yeah.
I just watched a video of you playing golf alongside Johnny Damon, amongst others. And it looked to me like as you were playing alongside them, there was a lot of fun had, but it wasn't like you had to do golf a certain way. They were just doing themselves. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, absolutely. Like part of knowing your game is knowing yourself
Yeah.
and knowing your character strengths and weaknesses and how that actually reflects on the course. So 100% on that.
All right. We'll get back to that some more. Let's introduce you to our audience. International from Venezuela. Tell us the story because if I, deep down South African, think of Venezuela, I think of football, I think of soccer, right? So, how does a young Venezuelan boy get into golf and end up in the States on scholarship?
Yeah, so I was born in the US, but my parents were from Venezuela. So they moved uh in the year 2000. I was born in '02. I'm currently 22 years old.
You're making me feel
And
so old. With your dad. Okay.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, I was born on a golf course at Doral. Before it was Trump National Doral back in the day. Uh I played since I was 3 years old. My dad got me into the game because he was a four handicap and
Mhm.
wanted me to learn. He saw the value that the game can bring to my life. So he introduced me to it. I did that alongside some karate, and it really helped me establish a lot of mental discipline going up, which, one of the biggest things that I always say is the game of golf really builds your character, and it's built mine throughout the years. Started competing since I was 7, and was playing tournaments basically every weekend, going around the country, playing U.S. kids tournaments, Florida Junior Tour, AJGAs. I won a couple AJGAs. I was the Rolex All-American group, within the top 20 in the country. And then I played Division 1 golf at UCF for about a year. But it was an interesting year because it was during COVID and I was in a dorm by myself, and I just kind of spent a lot of time reflecting on what it is I wanted to do with my life. And I always knew I wanted to take the game as far as I could. And I just got into into a better place, mentally as to like who I was. And I felt like the environment that I was in didn't suit me. So I decided to leave college after that first year. I turned pro because I was working with Jim McLean, who's a renowned golf instructor, for about 5 years. I mean, he's been instrumental to my success. He really built my confidence in my game. which we'll really hit on as part of what I said, playing your strength. But, you know, he was someone that really inspired me to go for it. And he told me, hey, might as well turn pro now and really give it a run. And played in the Dominican Republic for a year in this tour that gives you a spot at the PGA tournament over there. And then, you know, started getting into creating content online because I needed to get sponsored to play. So I went down that route and actually started getting pretty good at making content. I didn't realize or know that I was ever going to do that. But one thing led to another, and I started to build my brand, and I finally got the opportunity to play this year full time. And within the midst of all of that, I was still building my brand, and I played a few Monday qualifiers, got through one of them, and everything was going down the right direction. And then it got to a point where the person that was supporting me wanted me to go either one route or the other. It's like, hey, do content or play pro. Uh, and I never thought I would do this ever because it was always been my dream to be on the PGA Tour. But I realized that the world of golf is going a certain direction, and what I had built and had some success on has some legs to stand on its own. So I decided to just be the connected golfer and help the golf world and be a part of the new movement that's happening with content creation in golf, and wanted to share my value, like just what I know and what I do as a golfer. Been in the game my whole life, so had a lot to share.
Cool story. I want to talk about the connected golfer, but I watched a video of yours. It was like an introduction. And this is your quote. I'm going to read it to you, and I want you to elaborate because I feel like there's a whole lot that a lot of golfers, junior, senior, club golfer, collegiate, aspirant pro, they can all learn from this statement of yours. And that's why we exist here. So here it is. You say, golf is my life. Every day, I immerse myself into the journey, falling down and rising again.
Yeah.
That hit me in my soul. So I want you to help golfers. Well, you're all about helping golfers, but I feel like golf is your life. I can sense that when I watch your content, when I hear you talk, but you talk about the immersion in the game. And immersion, this is not sunshine and lollipops. This is not all good news. Golf is mean sometimes.
Mhm.
I fall down, but I'm going to rise up. So help us.
Yeah, absolutely. I came to a realization in my life when I went down the road of reflecting on what it is I wanted to do. I realized I always had this dream of just being on the PGA Tour, being the best player in the world, and that's all I aspired to. But when I really got out of and zoomed out and saw the bigger picture in life, I started to see the opportunities that golf itself just has to offer. And I got curious about it, and I realized that what I truly love is being immersed in the journey of golf, going out there and practicing, hitting balls, playing games, setting up matches. That stuff to me fires me up, and it's like I want to do this forever, and it's just something I've always wanted to do. And that's what I mean by that, because yeah, golf is mean. I still have bad rounds, even though I play almost every day. And it's just like, wow, it makes you question it, but at the same time, it's like you signed up for this. And I'm taking the punch by the chin.
Know what? I've heard many a smart golfer and many a successful person speak of the fact that, the person that ends up at the top of the pile, everyone's talented, obviously, but it's like the person that just kept going. Because, we've got our golf goal for argument's sake, and eventually you get beaten down enough, and then you're like, oh, well, I can't be bothered. And then you're not 100% invested. But I feel like it's that 100% investment with you that's kind of keeps you going despite some of the challenges.
Yeah, and I do got to credit a lot of that to now my venture into content creation, because as a creator, you have to make content for your audience pretty much on a daily basis. I mean, with your podcast and everything. So like that to me was like I have to now be the example of what I'm talking about. If I'm, sharing all these tips and tricks, like I want to be the most connected guy to the game. You know, I want to always be out there showing people what it takes to make it. He's like, hey, I'm gonna have a great swing on Instagram and stuff, but I'm out here every day, you know, like it's not like I'm doing this once a month.
You are the connected golfer. Um, I'm interested about the name. And then you have a connected golfer manual folks can find on your website. And then you also have a 6 module course to help people take performance to the next level. And this kind of jives with me because this is what this podcast does. It's our goal, I should say. So talk about how you came about the connected golfer first off.
Yeah, so it's funny how I came about it. I started doing content as myself, and I went on a trip with a buddy of mine, and we played a ton of courses from Miami to North Carolina, just as a trip, and we filmed. I learned how to film content in this trip, and one of the things he was also like kind of a personality, you know, Hispanic guy, and he was like, dude, like when you play he always said that you're so connected to nature. You're so connected, like, you know, to the moment. Like I've always I have this Zen like demeanor on the course, I would say, where I can still bring out the personality, but you know, my natural state, I like to be in that Zen, and that's what really drives performance, in my opinion. But the connected golfer actually ended up coming from a buddy of mine who he was a financial advisor, and I'm a member here at Doral, and I had some relationships that I could introduce him to. And he's like, dude, you're a golfer and you're pretty connected with these people. Like, you're the connected golfer. I'm like,
There you go.
I guess, yeah. And then I tried it and it stuck. And from there, I started to really embrace it and, you know, be like, okay, like, what does this really mean? Because people are going to ask, like, who is the connected golfer? And that's when I decided to go on this venture for about 8 months of creating my online course called the Connection Formula, which was more of like my path of that I took when I felt like I got this realization of life, and I started to optimize my potential and be on the road to maximizing my impact.
Mhm.
Because I feel like that those are the three pillars we kind of review: is realize your value, optimize your potential, and maximize your impact. This kind of framework, it's a 30 video course that really lays out the strategy that I took to, you know, disconnect from the reality we live in our minds and connect to my soul, my heart, what's actually going inside within me, and not being afraid to express that. So that was kind of the basis of that. And yeah, I mean, then after that, I wrote the book. It's a 50-page book on really golf. So the course was nothing about golf. It was just about the mindset shift I made, and you know, I wanted to obviously provide my audience with something golf related. So I was like, okay, like if you want to learn how to be a connected golfer, like here's the manual. Like here's exactly like how I approach my journey of golf, my practice, and my performance on the course.
Well, folks can go and find that on your website, which is theconnectedgolfer.com. Okay, let's get back to the course management.
Yeah.
LH3 as you go by. We talked about play to your strengths. I feel like we've just kind of brushstroked that thing a little bit because it's one of those trite statements that if I go and ask any golf pundit, they'll say, well, you got to play to your strengths. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, cool, I get you. But then when like you went on this thing where you dug into who you are and you worked on kind of the soul of it. So playing to your strength, that's obviously knowing yourself. But I feel like there's a real discipline to be able to do that when the pressure gets up. So I want you to go there, please.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, whenever you're in a high pressure situation, you're gonna make decisions that are probably, you know, they feel overwhelming. So like you don't know what to do. But when you commit to the game that you're gonna play based on the practice and, you know, preparation that you've had to that point, then I feel like you are in a better position to make smart decisions under pressure.
Mhm.
Uh, I feel like a lot of that, I mean, some might say it's momentary. Like, you know, if I'm in this position, I just kind of think of it on the spot and make it happen. I think a lot of it is preparation, like knowing your game so much that you're like, these are the shots that I hit, you know, full out. Like, it's not just, you know, knowing that you're kind of a calmer guy instead of, you know, a more bold golfer. I would say it's like knowing that when you're downwind, you hit less club and make a full swing. Knowing that when you're into the wind, you hit more club and less swing every time. Like unless there's a specific scenario that really brings like something out of that regular sequence, like that's knowing your game
Yeah,
and playing to your strengths.
that's a cool. That's a cool take. I mean, just the observation about the conditions. I know there's more of that in a second. As you were talking, that got me to thinking about the urgency of it too, because golf creates that. When Look, when it's going well, it's easy for all of us, but our real value, our success as a player, is defined by how we are when things aren't that great. And what it's like when you're struggling, you're in a tournament, you feel like all eyes are on you, nothing's working, and then there's this urgency, like I've got to hit this shot. But then this connected, smart golfer still knows himself or herself, and they hit the correct shot, not necessarily the good shots. I want you
Yeah.
to camp there for me.
Yeah, I will. I have an example I can bring out on this. I played an AJGA tournament. So for those that don't know, the AJGA hosts the biggest junior golf tournaments, I would say, in the world. I mean, they have the best tour right now. And this specific tournament I had qualified for was the one in Innisbrook that gave the most points. And I was like, okay, like this is one of those tournaments that all the best players, in the league play, and I got to perform pretty well. So as I
Course is
was
hard.
going through and the course is hard, but we ended up playing not Copperhead, but the Island course, which was it's like OB on every hole, and it was a 3 day tournament. I hit two drivers and won by 3 shots.
Really?
And I realized that the whole time I was in control. Like I felt in control. It wasn't like like even just the decision of pulling off driver when you know it's kind of a risk and you don't really need to do it and hitting it, even if you hit it fine, it's like you stimulate that adrenaline in your body that stays in your body throughout the round. It takes 30 minutes for your adrenaline to really, like stop pumping at that level. So in tournament golf, you got to be very conscious of that and make, decisions that are aligned to your strengths. I'm a very good iron player. That's the strength of my game. I
Right.
love hitting like 2 irons off the tee and, I hit it a decent distance. So I was hitting that a lot of the time. I can't hit a 3-wood to save my life. So that I know that. And I don't even carry a 3-wood in a lot of tournaments. And I'm fine with that. And it's like people live in this world of comparison that gets them out of their authenticity and they don't know what their game really is.
Authenticity. I love that. Hey, to the 3-wood thing, you remind me. Look, Rory McIlroy, arguably the most talented golfer in the world. Okay. He says to me a few weeks ago, this is in 2024. He goes, I look in his bag before a round and he's hitting 3-wood. I'm like, wow, that looks good. And he goes, I finally have found a 3-wood that I can hit. He goes, every other 3-wood I've hit basically my entire career felt like the thing was going off the planet to the left hand side.
Yeah.
And I remember I laughed. And then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, this is Rory freaking McIlroy.
Yeah.
Your thing, hated his 3-wood for a little while. That's authentic.
Yeah. Exactly. And I know, like, for example, I love putting from off the green. Most people can't putt from, like, not most, but a lot of people,
Mhm.
they're off the green, they get the wedge. I putted a lot from off the green, like even 10 feet off the fringe. I just love rolling it. Like, for me, that's how I see the shots. And I know that. So that's kind of what I mean by that, playing to your strengths.
Yeah, I would certainly advise the teacher inside of me to say, folks, go to the putter more often and practice with your putter. All right. So that was number one, play to your strengths. Number two, this speaks to who you are, and I think the discipline of your game, and certainly the man that you are as well. And you like aim for the center of the green. Now, yeah, okay. I see you for the folks on YouTube. There's a big smile on his face. This is the hardest thing in the world to do, but it's probably one of those tips that's going to save you the most strokes. So off you go.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I would have done this a lot more when I was younger, to be honest. But it's like the ego gets in the way through the round, and this is what it's all about. It's like, again, going back to what I said, like golf is all about, especially like competitive golf or tournament golf, is it's all about managing your stress levels. So when you aim to a target that's less stressful, and my coach used to say in college, like I think it was I forget the word, but it's not aggressive. targets and aggressive swings,
Yeah.
conservative targets and aggressive swings.
Mhm.
And that's the philosophy. I mean, it's really a numbers game at the end of the day. And if you're gonna play golf, I mean, most of us we play golf all the time. We're not gonna just play one round and go. Like, it's an evolution, it's a journey. So if you're good at being disciplined about doing the same thing really well, the simple things really well, you'll be a pretty good golfer over time. And you'll notice, hey, like these guys are firing at pins. This guy just shot a 64 next to me. Like, isn't this what it takes? I've talked to a lot of players that have shot 64 in a round, and they're like, hey, I didn't really fire that many pins.
Yeah.
Tiger will fire at maybe one pin in a round, and it's the best players in the world. So it goes to show like the thought process behind golf is really about like understanding you play golf with a shotgun and not a sniper.
Mm.
And you got to make sure you pick the right targets. And usually the center of the green is a good target because it's the fattest part.
Yeah, true. Well, I guess I want to build on that a little too, because the center of the green, most golfers, well, I'm a former college coach. And for 20 something years, I saw kids, they'd get there and they'd just laser the flag and then hit. Where the elite golfer where I work now, the professional, they have got a yardage that covers, a yardage to the flag, a yardage adjusted for hills and wind and stuff like that. And then they're looking at this going, well, this doesn't fit my mold right now. So I'm going to have to move my target there. So to your point as well, it's not just the way you pick the target, is how far and how you judge yardage. And that's where you also said one of the course management tips was smart club selection. Then you add due to conditions, which I feel like is a massive misstep by most golfers listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, conditions is everything in golf. It's never going to be a super calm. I mean, most of the time, it's not going to be a super calm day with perfect conditions. So you got to take into consideration the fact that you're going to be, faced with some variables out there, and you got to have a strategy to face those variables. So one of the things, I mean, that I was saying, like, I think the first thing you need to assess is like, where's the flag? Like, how much room uh, do I have on the green where the flag is? So knowing where the flag is really gives you an understanding of where it is you should play the ball so you won't be short-sighted. You want to avoid any short-sighted misses. That's like the number one rule
Well,
with
okay,
club selections.
but I'm a big one for information and then understanding it. So I don't think everyone in the audience may not know what short sighting is. So describe what short sighting is, please.
So short sighting is when let's say the flag is in the front and you miss short, you don't have that much green to work with from the position that your ball is to where the flag is. So you're in a position where it's a little bit harder because you have to go through more variables of the fringe or the rough that could be in the way versus being on the correct side of the hole gives you the whole green to work with, which is a flat surface and you can kind of control.
Yeah. And I'll add to that too. I mean, working in the pros, there's one place side of the green they'll all avoid, and that's where the players tend to walk off. And then you'd be the club golfer listening to this, avoid the side of the green that might be close to the cart path. Because if you block one, someone gets on the path, all of a sudden your bad shot is kind of exacerbated a little.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's a great point. Uh,
Well,
that definitely because it's more ran through and it's firmer and more it's worse. It's going to be a worse lie probably.
I'm going to say something I want your take. The connected smart golfer. Um, I will often say to people that when you select shots, you got to go, basically, you in disaster avoidance mode most times. And I learned this from Webb Simpson, who said, I'm okay with a bad shots. I just don't want that to cost me two. So sometimes you're going to be in a situation where you're between clubs or whatever, and you look at the situation going, well, there's more trouble here than what it's worth. So I guess I'm going back to your observation to say, okay, I pick the defensive target, but make a convicted swing towards that, as opposed to just hitting and hoping, and then the thing gets to rolling on the ground. And when a ball gets to rolling, stuff tends to go wrong.
Yeah, and a lot of us like we pick the target and then we're over the ball and we're like, but I can draw it in there. I could put a little spin on it, make it, maybe go next to the flag and we hook it. We're screwed. It's really about having the discipline to carry out that conservative target with an aggressive swing, like you said. It's the key.
A ball always rolls down a hill. People remember that. And sometimes hills are helpful, sometimes they're bad. And most
Yeah.
times you'll see that there is a hill on the safe side of the flag you can also use.
Yeah.
Do that. One of your observations for course management and improving was to stay below the hole. Now, when you said that, when you texted that to me, I smiled. And the reason I smiled was because now, again, in the strokes gained era, they're going to be a band of people that are going to try and convince you that whether you're 5 feet above the hole or 7 feet below the hole, it's better to be closer and above the hole than farther away and below the hole. I would argue, yes, sometimes, but that's not a hard and fast rule. So I'd love you to elaborate on this because I think you're right. If you're below the hole, you can play with a little bit more conviction and aggression.
Yeah, that you nailed it right there. That's why I think I'm right. It's just I believe that, like I said, it's all about stress management, and you want to put yourself in a position of power throughout the round as much as possible. Most of the time when you're hitting a downhill putt, you're more timid than when you're hitting an uphill putt. You're
Mm.
just going to be a lot more tentative with the shot because, it's a downhill putt. It could just run away from you and keep rolling. Ball always rolls down the hill. But when you're going up the hill, most of the time you're like, okay, I could be pretty aggressive with this and not worry about it going, too far by. And it's more of a confident stroke. And the more confident shots that you hit throughout the more confident you'll feel throughout the round. And usually leads to better results and a lot less stress through the round.
I like, you talked about the stress management a couple times now, and golf is stressful, even if you're playing poorly, bad, well. It's certainly stressful if you're playing poorly. And then I love this. You're putting yourself in a position of power. And when you said that, I'm like, yeah, I'm on board with this. Because most time when we're playing golf, you feel kind of at the mercy of everything going on around you. And all we're just trying to do is get our ducks in a row as much as possible. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And when you're in a position of power, you can build momentum, which is where you start really going low.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't build momentum from a position of weakness, from a position of fear, or like you got to be in a position of power within yourself to be able to build momentum throughout the round. And even if you do, luckily build some momentum with some, great bounces and stuff, it's eventually going to catch up to you. So that's just the way that I see golf overall.
Mm. This is a follow up to your observation. Help us golfers that when we have that bad day, because you sound to me like you're bulletproof, and whether the day is good or bad, that you're going to be okay and you up for the battle tomorrow, or the next nine, or the next whatever it might be. But you're like, all right, I'm looking ahead. I'm not looking behind me. Help us, because it's so easy to look at what's happened and then go into the next hole or the next shot or the next round from that position of weakness.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. The first thing I would say is your post-round reflections should be positive, like should be something that people take seriously. After a round of golf, it's very easy. Even after you shoot maybe a 68, I've shot really good rounds where the only thing I think about, damn, I shot 68, but I doubled 18.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thinking of the double on 18 and how it could have been a 66. First off, it's never good enough. So that's the first thing you got to like get in your mind. So immerse yourself in the experience of the game and what it can bring out of you. And I think post round reflections are very important to have. And some of the things that I'll ask myself is like, what were, some of the positive things that happened throughout the round? Where did I feel confident the most? And I obviously still want to identify like what it is that I did wrong. That is still part of the process, but emotionally, I'm connecting to the positive things that I was able to experience because we get to play golf. We don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
we get to play it. So we got to build from that perspective and understand the bigger picture while we're doing that. But at the same time, I mean, you get punched in the face and it's not easy to get back up because it can seem so overwhelming to get good at golf. It can seem like, but my swing needs so much work. But like, I can't do it. Like it feels like you're helpless. And for anyone watching this, like that's in that position right now, stay connected to the process. Like there's a process that you can go through that'll help you feel the feelings of gratitude and compassion for the game and for yourself. if you're just immersed in the process. So first you need to understand, what is this process? And this is kind of like the basis of what your podcast is about and everything. But like, go out there and forget about those results that you've been, nagging on this whole time, and just immerse yourself in one shot at a time. Back to the quote that we said in the beginning. One day at a time, one shot at a time, one hole at a time. And, you know, focus on the feelings that you feel and control your inner emotions throughout the course. And just everything will shift with you.
Speaking of emotion, I've heard it said by a smart golfing psychologist pundit that um, you shouldn't have hope, basically. And I paraphrase, that doesn't come out right, because hope sets you up for failure. And then you go on this precipitous fall where, like, I've done the work, I'm hopeful, bang, I've double bogey the first hole, now my dreams are shattered. Do you believe in hope? Seems to me
No.
you don't.
Hope,
Okay.
hope, hope is fear in disguise. It's the other side of fear, my way, in my opinion. I think there's three pillars to this. There's hope, faith, and knowing.
Okay.
And we start at hope, like I hope I could do this.
Yeah.
And then we go to like, I have faith that I can really do. I truly believe I can do this. And then you go to, I know I can do this. Just
Mhm.
the difference in those, the way you're having a conversation with yourself. Like, you heard those three. You want to be saying, I know I can do this, not I hope I can do this. I hope is like, why do you not know? Like, you know you could do it, but like, you're just hoping now. That means you're scared. There's something inside of you that has fear. And that's the way I kind of see it. And I really reflected on that a lot, because I felt like I was hoping for a lot of things, and hoping things would turn out. And I realized, like, I just need to become like that person. And that's honestly what inspired me too, to become the connected golfer. Is like, the connected golfer is the highest version of myself on the course. So when I visualize the connected golfer, I'm connecting to that feeling of like knowing that I am the best. And that feeling really just carries out to your game, and it builds you the confidence and the character to excel.
Connected to the feeling of knowing that I'm the best. Hmm. Yes. Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
don't be afraid to say it, man. I mean, a lot of people,
Brilliant. Yeah.
hey, maybe you're tickling your ego. Honestly, like, that's how I think. And that's how I believe everybody should think. Everybody should has the right to think that they are the best at what they do. And if you don't, then you're the only one saying you're not. You could just say it.
I think we should have a monthly installment on the show where you just motivate people to run through walls and believe in themselves. I love it.
Yes. Yes.
Important. Golf is such a mental game, and everything about the connected golfer and what you're advising you. Course management tips at their core are basically just decisions. And then for those decisions to work, they're an attitude and they're a discipline. And for that to work, you got to get yourself into that place. You can't just be wishy washy and just going crazy out on the course. You're going to get crazy results then.
Absolutely. And it carries off, like, all the way before you even get to the course. I mean, do you want to live by chance or by choice? And that's kind of what I live by. It's like you have a choice to make, to align yourself to the best version of yourself every day. Something I've been implementing into my life that I share in the video courses and my content is, a strong morning routine, and having something where it's like you wake up and do something uncomfortable in the morning, like first thing. That builds your character to, you know, rise back up when you get defeated. And it's like, I know whatever happens, I'm gonna wake up and we're gonna stay connected today. And it's a process.
This has gone so much further than course management, and I love it. All right, the here it is. So play to your strengths, aim for the center of the green, stay below the hole, smart club selection, considering conditions, and the final one is take your medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take your medicine. That's a tough one for a lot of people,
I'll say.
because we want to be the hero. We want to hit the shot. We know we can do it. It's now or never. Like, if we don't try it, when are we going to really do it? I just don't think golf is about that. Golf isn't about being the hero. It's about being the the everyman and just being good at being the everyman, like being so simple that you're so effective and lethal. And biggest thing that I've learned with that is I was currently working with the Team Flow program at the Floridian Golf Club, led by Claude Harmon. And the biggest thing that they talk about is avoid doubles. Like
Yeah.
stop making doubles. Like you don't need you can avoid making doubles just by decision making. It's fine to have a bad swing, but a double is usually a bad decision in there. Um, and a lot of that comes from trying to get something more out of what you got when it's like, okay, like let's just play to what I got right now.
Yeah.
And it's all about shifting your perspective there. So taking your medicine is important throughout the round because it minimizes the mistakes.
I want to, this is a personal anecdote from way back in the day when I used to play competitive golf. I'd never forget the round. Driven the thing in trouble, and something, there was a shot I could have went for it with some risk involved, but I had a caddy and the caddy wouldn't let me do it. And so I laid it out there and I wedged it to like 15 feet and I made it. And he said to me, see, you can still make par that way. And I paraphrase. And that occurred to me. And then I went and worked on my wedge game and I went and worked on those recovery shots. And that changed my shift as a golf instructor in the end, because I realized that golf is a game of recovery. And recovery isn't necessarily hitting the crazy shot that's riddled with risk and things can get worse and you can make the double or the triple. So I feel like that taking your medicine is a function of working on shots that mean something, as opposed to
Yeah.
beating drivers on the range all day long or something like that.
Yeah, I would say a big piece of advice is just get dialed in inside 100 yards. Like if you're confident with that part of your game, like you don't have to push the needle, when you're in trouble. You could just position yourself to that yardage and you're going to give yourself a chance. And like just be patient out there. And I think that's the main thing. The main thing that I push in the Connected Golfer Manual, we start with, three truths about the game: patience, commitment, and humility. With those three, we're constantly being tested on them throughout the course. And if we establish the intention to build up those three things in our life through the game of golf, like the game will really, test you. So I think being patient is very important. Being committed is very important, and then staying humble through the process because golf will definitely punch you whenever it wants to.
LH3, Leo, this has been tremendous. Folks want to know, okay, where do I go and get where do I get the manual? Where do I get the 6 modules, the connection formula? So tell them the website and where they can reach you.
Yeah, thank you. Just go to theconnectedgolfer.com. I just recently launched a membership as well that has a series of other courses about specifically golf performance. So we talk about the fundamentals of the swing, the approach, the mental approach to the game, course management strategies, practice sessions, all that. It's within the website as well. And we get on some one training call a month just to review what's inside and help the early stage golfer really understand how to, approach the game of golf and actually improve. So everything's there at theconnectedgolfer.com.
Just to put people's minds at ease, because I listen to these conversations like a fan, even though I'm a golf teacher deep down. And I'm concerned that maybe sort of your club 18 handicap golfer or worse is listening to this stuff going, okay, that doesn't really apply to me. I feel like what you've shared here applies to everyone, no matter where they are in the game. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really a rundown from like whatever level you're at to get a really good understanding of the tools and strategies that it takes to be a high performance golfer. And not just to align yourself like that on the course, but off the course as well.
Yeah.
And understanding what it takes to live the lifestyle of a golfer. And you know what it takes. You've been around the best in the world. Like it's a deliberate life that you gotta like align yourself to. If you're looking to get dialed in with the game, it's a whole process.
I've been around the best. You are one of the best, and I'm thankful you would have joined us, Leo. I appreciate you very much. Thanks for joining our show.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it. Thanks for everyone.